The girl is sitting at her desk, pen in hand, writing something important. As her wedding day approaches, she's drafting a will. It's not a joyful occasion for her because she knows she won't live past the first night. She's planning to end her own life, a choice she sees as dishonorable and shameful. She believed her main job as a princess was to give everything to her country and royal family. Even though she tried her best, she felt like she hadn't succeeded. The last straw was when the royal family agreed to marry her off to Margrave Aubert. She felt like they were using her as a pawn in their political games. Feeling angry and hurt, she decided to get back at them. She planned to destroy the valuable things the royal family had given her, thinking it was the only way to strike back and make them understand her pain. It's the day of the wedding, and the princess is preparing herself. Her maid compliments her beauty, while another asks if she's really leaving today. Princess reassures them, saying she'll be okay wherever she ends up. The maids around her express sadness about the situation, and a servant hands her the marriage certificate. She takes it, stands up to leave, and notices the pleasant weather outside as they head towards the door. As she walks away, bidding farewell to the maids, suddenly a voice calls her name with anger. It's Blaine, Leah's half-brother, also known as Prince Estia. Princess looks at him in surprise and comments on his unexpected presence. He blocks her path, swearing angrily, but she insists that he move aside. She warns him that any delay might prevent her from leaving the capital that day. Blaine curses again and raises his hand as if he might hit her. The princess stands firm, reminding him that she now belongs to Margrave Aubert, daring him to harm his own interests. He challenges her belief that marriage will be her escape, promising to bring her back to the capital once he becomes king. With a cold tone, she suggests he can do whatever he wants with her lifeless body. Hurrying into the waiting carriage, she quickly moves away as it starts to roll. She gazes out of the window, feeling a sense of freedom from the place where she had always lived. There's no sadness in her heart because she never truly felt like she belonged there. Yet, a slight twinge of regret lingers as she remembers a young man who keeps occupying her thoughts. He was bold, unpredictable, and enigmatic. Just a day ago, he had departed from the palace, but now he appears before her. Looking out again, she spots him riding swiftly towards them on horseback. He launches an attack on her convoy, swiftly dealing with everyone in his path. She stands up, steps outside, and faces him. He is a Korkan, and she is surprised to see him there. He reminds her of his vow to ruin her life, a promise she seems to have forgotten. Let's go back to how it all began. She receives the order to marry Margrave. Her mother sits her down and explains that as a princess, her body belongs to the royal family. She tries to argue, but her mother insists it's all for Estia's benefit. When she learns she's to be given away like a prize, despair grips her momentarily, but she quickly pushes it aside. After reading the marriage certificate delivered to the palace, she makes a calculated decision. She plans a political marriage to shame the Estia royal family forever. Entering a brothel, she scans the unfamiliar surroundings. Spotting a man sitting alone, she senses he must be the one she's meeting. Approaching him, she asks if he's her companion for the day, and he confirms it. Observing him, she notes his subdued voice. She'd heard men in such places were usually charming and nimble, but this man is different. She resolves not to let it bother her. His identity doesn't matter. He instructs her to follow him. She briefly considers turning back but decides against it. She'd come here with hopes of something romantic and meaningful. They enter a room and he finally reveals his face. Noticing her nervousness, he introduces himself as a Korkan, known for their distinctive hair, clear skin, and sharp eyes. He remarks that it's been a while since he heard someone use the term Korkan, usually associated with barbarians. Korkans are often looked down upon in this continent, called names like barbarians or beasts. They're seen as more animal-like than human, driven by instincts and known for being unpredictable and dangerous. Despite this, they're admired for their physical prowess and striking appearance. Even in Estia, where slavery is banned, Korkans were secretly traded as high-class slaves. She's encountered many Korkans while catching illegal slave traders, but this one is unlike any she's seen before. She wonders if he's truly just a male prostitute. As he starts to undress her, she hesitates, feeling out of place. He's surprised to find a lady of her upbringing in such a place. She explains she's unsure why he's here, but he reassures her that they're simply here to enjoy each other's company for the night, without any complications or worries. She thinks, that's right, we'll never see each other again. If only she could destroy everything in the royal palace. She wishes she could just lose her V-card and be done with it all. She doesn't care about anything anymore. She tells him not to change the subject, that she just wants to spend the night with him and forget everything else. He asks if he should call her master. He gently carries her to the bed and they begin to get intimate. Hours later, she wakes up with him beside her. It wasn't a dream. She wonders if he cleaned her up. She can't believe she went through with it. It was exhausting yet strangely satisfying. She knows she won't forget it. It fulfilled her desires in a twisted way. Now she's lost her virginity and feels like she's compromised her reputation, becoming a meaningless prize. She decides it's time to leave. When she tries to get up, he stops her, asking where she's going. She explains their night is over, but he suggests they go again. Confused, she asks what he means. Looking at his body now, she notices it's unusually clean. Most Kurkens she's encountered have tattoos, so she wonders why he doesn't have any. He catches her gaze and asks what she's staring at. She mentions his lack of tattoos, finding it a bit unusual. He pulls her closer and suggests they exchange questions. He'll answer hers if she answers his. He starts by asking why a bride's purity is so crucial in the Estia kingdom. She explains that in Estia, a bride's purity is tied to the family's honor. The higher her status, the more important her purity is. If a bride fails to maintain her purity, it could legally end the marriage. She had several reasons for giving away her V-card. She couldn't bear the thought of losing it to a much older man, 25 years her senior. It was also a defiant gesture aimed squarely at the royal family, who had treated her like a valuable trophy to be sold off. She wanted to wash her hands of her difficult and painful life, though she couldn't admit that to herself at the time. He asks her if she ever considered running away, catching her off guard. Deep down, she knows the royal family is corrupt to the core and would crumble without her. If she had the chance and someone to help her, maybe she could escape. But running away isn't what she wants. She doesn't want to spend her life on the run. Instead, she's set on revenge against the royal family and more. She feels disgusted with herself for sacrificing so much for a family that never truly cared for her. All she wants now is to complete her final task and end her life. Standing up, she tells him she wants to die. Feeling her pain, he stands up and assures her he'll explain everything about Kurkens without tattoos next time. She agrees, saying it sounds interesting. He tells her to hold on until then casually asks what they should eat. She's taken aback by his nonchalant tone, especially considering they're both naked. Later, she remembered how he had comforted her, promising to share more about Kurkens without tattoos. She had found his casual manner surprising at the time, given their vulnerable state. He brings in a dish, and she quickly covers herself with the blanket. He mentions it's cold and sits down, offering her the food. She refuses, saying she's not hungry. He persists, concerned about her thinness, so she reluctantly takes the food and starts eating. He watches her closely, which makes her uncomfortable, and she tells him to stop staring. He suggests she lie down if she wants, and after finishing the food, he asks if she's satisfied. She replies she ate more than usual. She takes out a coin and gives it to him, thanking him for the experience. He takes the money and kisses her hand, noting her generosity, then suggests they meet again. She leaves, knowing deep down they won't meet again, no matter what he hopes for. She arrives home exhausted and climbs into bed, feeling drained. She remembers his promise to tell her about Kurkens without tattoos next time they meet. It's hard for her to fall asleep. Tomorrow promises to be even more hectic. She reflects on how long it's been since she felt so at ease with someone. In that moment, she felt free to be herself, to express her anger and follow her instincts without restraint. It was liberating yet fleeting. She knows she won't see him again, but regrets not asking his name. The next morning, she receives a document from a maid and thanks her. She needs to organize some papers before a meeting later, plus there's a note on her desk, an invitation to visit the Queen's palace. She decides to go, hesitating briefly at the door. The maid announces her arrival and she steps inside. She enters and calls her mother. Queen greeted her warmly, saying she had been expecting her. Back when she was young, the Queen is teaching Princess Leah Estia's manners. Little Leah tries to balance books on her head as the Queen instructs her to keep still and not appear frivolous. Queen emphasizes the importance of good posture and dignity, reminding Leah she's the princess of Estia. In a flashback, Princess Leah slips and the books tumble. She accidentally calls the queen Ms. Saradina. The queen gently corrects her, insisting she should call her mother. Back in the present, the princess sits at the table with the queen. There are gifts laid out, all sent by Margrave a bird. The queen remarks on their value and Princess Leah eyes them skeptically. They look familiar, like ones she refused, and now they're sent straight to the queen's palace. Queen drapes a necklace around her neck, saying it suits her perfectly, almost like it was made just for her. She praises Margrave a bird's taste. As they prepare to eat, the queen mentions Blaine couldn't join them, joking he's probably off hunting again. Leah reminds her of Blan's promise to catch a fox for her. Queen acknowledges Blaine as someone who cares deeply for Leah, worrying it might make his future wife jealous. Leah takes a sip of her drink, feeling a twinge of indigestion. She recalls what the Corkin said, that she's too thin like a withered tree branch. She wonders if she should eat more and reaches for a piece of food. Before she can taste it, the queen calls her out. Leah explains she was just curious about the flavor. The queen then reminds her that her wedding is approaching, hinting she shouldn't forget how to control her eating. She remembered feeling conflicted, caught between the Corkin's advice and the queen's expectations about her wedding. They're in a meeting talking about the tax reform news. Estia Kingdom, a kingdom well known for its culture and arts, located in the southwest. Great artistes who loved their homeland willingly dedicated their talents for the royal family. Thanks to that, the Estia Kingdom became the beautiful and magnificent place it is. However, despite its appearance, within royal family is quite corrupted. The royal authority is at its rock bottom. Margrave a bird who keeps the Corkins at bay, wills the military power and financial resources of Estia. The royal family gave their princess to him without a second thought. They may be in momentary confusion due to the sudden tax reform. Although to ensure that there won't be any problems when she's away from the palace, this is for the best. It'll end up being in the hands of Blaine, but for the sake of innocent citizens. Princess Leah is sitting and listening to her advisors talk. One tells her that opposition from the nobles is not something to be underestimated, especially from Margrave a bird. He goes on, telling her that Margrave a bird has used the Corkins as an excuse and requested for a reduction in the tax duties imposed on a bird Margraviate. One of them replies that his greed knows no bounds, that an invasion from the Corkins would save them more finances. The princess tells the man that they need to verify the necessity for tax reduction in a bird's Margraviate and make a proper decision. He replies that he'll do it. Baroness Sinnel enters the room calling on the princess. The princess asked what happened and she said they just received a letter from the Corkins. She reads it to her saying that if Estia was willing to make peace with the Corkins, they'll send envoys for a friendly settlement. It read that the king of Corkin wishes FO visit Estia with his envoy. Corkins are said to have the blood of beast running in them. Some even claim that they inhabited the continent long before history's first records. They live in groups and roam about the western desert, usually near bodies of water. Each tribe of the Corkins represents the blood of a different beast running through their veins. The biggest and notorious tribe is the one ruled by a single yet powerful sovereign, the king of the Corkins. Many kings fear the threat posed by the Corkins. As such, they were accused of being barbarians by the nobles. However, there was another reason for their contempt for the Corkins: its predatory marriage. Corkins value their partners greatly, so if one sets their eyes on someone as their partner, they'll do anything to take them along. In the past, the Corkins have been subject to great criticism due to the nature of the predatory marriage. On the surface, it was a perfect excuse to take action against the barbaric deeds of the Corkins, but in reality there was an interest of the noble cities to capture Corkins, since they could be sold as slaves for high prices. However, when facing the unfamiliar climate of the desert and the overwhelming tactics of the tribe, usually these efforts ended with the defeat of the nobles' forces who had to retreat. And after a long and painful war, they decided to make peace with the Corkins. The Corkins used to exist as an isolated race away from the rest of the world. Countess continues, telling the princess that the king of Corkins said that he is going to return with a military force to face the Estia family. Princess wonders why the Corkins wanted to interact with the noble families, if it was to cause conflict to satiate their love for war. She has heard that the current king slaughtered the former to take the position. She knew it. A man that fierce and violent wouldn't want to make amends. The Estia's family territory shares a border with the Corkins, so if war breaks, it's going to be a massive bloodbath. She looks at the letter and thinks that they need to come up with a plan right away. And also, when it comes to the king of Korkans, they can't let his handsome face fool them or those radiant golden eyes of his. They might not know what they have in mind, but she still doesn't understand why he was visiting the brothels of Estia. It doesn't make sense. Princess asks the countess what her father said, and she replies to that he said they have no choice but to accept the king of Korkans' demand. It is obvious to the princess that the noble families wouldn't want to lose this opportunity, especially the Abird family, which is famous for the traffic of Korkans. Margrave Abird himself calls them savage, saying they're just scum. She's glad that the king of the Korkans didn't meet a man like that. She guessed they don't have any other choice. She tells them to prepare to receive their special guests. The new king of the Korkans and Count Abird will finally have a duel after their factions have been in conflict for years. Now the peace that was barely maintained until now is about to be broken. It's late at night. The king of the Korkans, Lord Isha Khan, stands outside the kingdom of Estia. He thinks about the princess. He feels that she looks more thinner than when they first met, saying that she must have gone through a lot. Haven. His servant comes to him and tells him that the letter has been sent and a reply has been received, and the preparations have finished. He asks what they should do now. Lord Isha Khan is still deep in thoughts about the princess. He remembers the night he spent with her. He calls it unexpected. He just wanted to confirm an old memory of his. Just by looking at her for a moment, he could already tell that his attempt of trying to shake off those memories of her were in vain. He was willing to use past debts as an excuse to make it look like a favor, but the plan had changed. It changed from the first time he heard that the princess was looking for a playmate to spend the night with. As a noble with a bunch of eyes behind her, he thinks it was normal for her to look for a way to satiate her libido behind everyone's back. That's not anything to be surprised about, but what really took him back was the fact that she went to the extent of claiming that she's a prostitute, even though she was clearly so afraid and clumsy. It must have been her first time. He recalls when she told him that she wants to die. His servant replies that she might not remember, that it happened a long time ago, and also the Isha Khan that she met back then has changed a lot. Isha Khan replies that that must be it, that first of all they should visit the princess. It's the day to receive the Korkans. The maids are dressing the princess up in her chambers. They set out, saying that they have to go and continue with the preparations. The princess is deep in thought. Everyone is busy preparing the banquet to receive the Korkans. It's been more chaos, more nobles than they expected will he attending too. She's sure it's because they want to see Count Abird and the king of Korkans meet. Count Abird may be a long-time ally of their family, but they have to make peace with the Korkans. If they can end the conflict, the crown Prince Blaine will be established. She overhears the maids whispering and asks them what they're discussing. One of them jokes about the king of Korkans falling for her at first sight. Princess decides to leave the room, but she slips and almost falls. The maids rush to help her up. She realizes she hasn't eaten much today, but figures she can hold out until the banquet starts. She knows everything must go perfectly with no mistakes. To break their shackles, even if they're more than able to do so. They don't break the shackles because they feel comfortable wearing them, and not necessarily because of love or fear for their keeper. It's just because it has been tamed for too long. Even though they have the strength to break the shackles, they don't have the will for it. In their heads, it's just simply not possible to do it. Even after deciding to die like Leah, just like Leah was still afraid of the queen, the image of their captors haunt them constantly. She walks slowly to the palace. The king is sitting with the crown prince standing beside him. She greets the king by prostrating. She wants to finish this up quickly. The nobles are all there waiting patiently for the king of Korkans. Finally, he comes with his convoy. The princess is surprised to see him. He introduces himself as Isha Khan. The princess looks on. As a prostitute, she gave away her virginity to the king of Korkans. How did that happen? Did he approach her intentionally because he knew who she was? She wonders if he knew her identity right from the onset. The fact that she lost her virginity to him and that she told him that she wanted to die, she wonders what she's going to do if he decides to use that information to manipulate her. She concludes that for now, she should calm down. The king of the Korkans looks at her. The crowd murmurs. They notice that he is looking at the princess, wondering if they know each other. One comments that they suit each other, another shuts the other one up, saying that he might cause the princess to go into a predatory marriage. King of Estia welcomes him to the kingdom. Isha Khan smiles and thanks the king for the reception. The princess looks at him. She can't believe how well Isha Khan is pretending to be happy here. The Korkans and the Estia kingdom have been enemies for a long time. Could it be because of her? However, she thinks he sees her more as a weakness on the enemy's side, because of her dumb actions. She tells herself to stay calm, not to show that she's flustered. Isha Khan walks closer to her and she raises her hands towards him, introducing herself as Leah Duestia. Isha Khan kisses her hand, she's surprised. As Isha Khan kisses her hand, she's speechless. She wonders what to do at that point. King tells Isha Khan to enjoy the banquet that has been prepared for him. Isha Khan replies that he will. The princess turns and runs away from the hall, defying other people's call. She keeps on running until she got to a dark corner. She stops to catch her breath. She wonders why Isha Khan kept staring at her throughout the welcome ceremony. She thought they'd never meet again. She recalls him telling her that her payment is generous, offering to meet with her again. She's not happy, though she doesn't know what to do. The next day, she strolls through the palace grounds with her maid, trying to distract herself. She couldn't sleep at all last night. As they walk in the garden, she spots a moonflower and predicts when it will bloom. Suddenly, her gaze shifts and she notices someone by the pool. It's the king of Korkans, smoking. A maid whispers to her that he's the Korkan king, known for enjoying tobacco for its spiritual significance. She wonders if it smells as sweet as it's rumored to. The maids ask which way they should go just as Isha Khan looks up and sees her. She tells the maid they should leave, but Isha Khan swiftly stands up and grabs her hand, pulling her closer. He asks where she's headed, insisting they need to talk. The maids are shocked and tell him his behavior is rude. The princess squirms free and reminds him that in Estia, it's considered improper to touch a royal without permission. She politely asks him to respect Estia's customs while in the palace. He responds, questioning if he's made an error, explaining that hunting is natural for Korkans and when someone turns away, it's instinct to pursue. She wonders if he sees her as prey. He then surprises her by requesting a tour of the palace. She hesitates, knowing that accepting could spark rumors by tomorrow, perhaps even tonight, that the king of Korkans had set his sights on her. Despite this, she cautiously takes his hand, much to the astonishment of her maids. She instructs them to return indoors, explaining she must attend to her guest. As they stroll around, she guides them away from crowded areas. Curious, she asks him outright if he approached her knowing she was the princess of Estia. He counters with a question of his own, asking what she'd do if he admitted he did know her status. She asserts that she wants to understand his intentions, if he aims to exploit her vulnerability. He then suggests she call him by his name instead of addressing him formally as the king of the Korkans. She finally calls him by his name and he responds positively to it. He mentions he'd like to receive similar casual treatment from her. She asks if he'll treat her like a proper princess, clarifying she'll show him respect as the king of the Korkans. She suggests they leave their encounter in the brothel behind them. He wonders if she'd stay mad if he didn't agree, but she insists he's free to do as he pleases. He agrees to treat her like a princess in public but then unexpectedly makes a rude comment, calling her a dirty woman instead of a naive princess. She tells him to stop using such words if he expects her to act like a princess. She also warns him not to touch her body without warning, but he ignores her, holding her hand and noting she seems thinner, asking if she's been eating properly. She wriggles free, saying that that's what she was talking about. He calms her down, telling her that they are alone, so there's no reason for him to treat her like a princess. She tells him that he wants him to stay quiet about that day. He replies that he's not sure, asking if she doesn't have to do something for him. She looks on, surprised. Quickly, he puts some fruits in her mouth. It's sweet. She wonders how long it has been since she has tasted something as sweet as this. He tells her that she has to spit out the fruits. Sticking his hand into her mouth, he tells her that it's a dry date palm fruit, asking if it's delicious. She is so hungry that she ate it all without realizing. He puts another into her mouth, telling her that he only needs one thing from her, which is to eat everything he gives to her. This is the type of food that she's not allowed to eat here in Estia. The few times she has tasted Korkan cuisine were from the slaves. She wished she can eat a little more, but she already ate too much. She have to be prepared for tomorrow's banquet and follow the preparations of Saradina, if her stomach gets bloated because of this. She tries to remove it from her mouth, but Isha Khan is faster. He collects it and throws it away, saying that since they're seeds, he'll just put them back in the soil. She looks at him. Everything he does makes her feel so embarrassed. It constantly shakes and disturbs her peaceful life. No matter what he does, it feels dirty to her, although she doesn't really hate it. He comes closer and gives her a can of sweets, telling her the Korkans believe that sweet things drive away evil spirits, but they also like sweets too as a habit. She looks at the gift. Judging by their appearance, she would have thought that they just eat raw meats, yet he carries something like this around. She refuses to accept it. He asks to know why and she replies that it's because she's skipping meals. He asks why she's doing that. He concludes that he doesn't think she's doing that for herself. He holds her shoulder and she shakes his hand off, begging him to promise her that he won't treat her improperly in the palace. She tells him to forget the night in the brothel too. He replies that he'll need her to be more specific, saying that he doesn't understand her since he's just a barbarian without much education. She tells him that she meant things like grabbing her arms all of a sudden or putting his fingers in her mouth. He smiles and asks if she wants him to give her more, saying that when he put it on her before she seemed to like it, he comes closer to her and she's terrified. Someone calls Isha Khan. She sees Blaine, the crown prince, walking towards them. It wasn't that she was estranged from Blaine from the beginning because she was very lonely back then. She was very happy that a boy her age had become a new family member back then. She believed they could truly become a family. Back when they were little, she searches all over the house for Blaine because he's skipped class again. Finally, she finds him hiding under the table. Concerned, she asks why he missed class, explaining his mother was worried. He confesses he doesn't like studying and prefers hunting. She sympathizes with him, admitting she hates studying too and believes no one in the world enjoys it. But she encourages him, explaining that the smarter and more knowledgeable he becomes, the more he can achieve in life. Curious, she asks if he has things he wants, like toys or treats from faraway places. He eagerly nods yes. She advises him not to give up but to work hard to achieve his desires. She promises to support him always and asks him to remember that. Looking back, she regrets making that promise back then. Fast forward to their teenage years. They're walking home from school when he suddenly grabs her hand tightly, causing her pain. He reminds her angrily that he warned her not to interrupt him when he's speaking. He demands to know why she embarrassed him in front of their teacher. She tries to explain that she was only trying to help, but he cuts her off, insisting that if she truly wants to help him, she should just keep quiet. Feeling hurt and frustrated, she tells him she understands and promises not to say anything else. She quickly walks away from him, feeling upset by the encounter. Back to present, he comes closer to the princess and Isha Khan. Isha Khan greets him. He replies that he doesn't know what the customs of the Korkans are, but in Estia, it is generally frowned upon for unmarried women to be with a man. He turns to the princess, addressing her as Nunim. At least he's polite when the king of Korkans is here. He only calls her Nunim when he feels like it. He tells her that he was looking for her to have a talk, saying that they should go to a quiet place. He holds her hand and drags her with him. Khan looks on, wondering if he should help. She doesn't want to be dragged away. She wants to ask for help, but can she really trust him? After all, he is the king of Korkans. Prince keeps dragging her against her will, going further until he finally stops. Frustrated, she asks why he's bothering with that jerk. She pleads with him to ease up a bit. Angrily, he shoves her away, causing her to stumble and hit her back against a tree. He warns her not to act flirtatiously in front of the Korkans, asking if she understands. She stands with her head down, her back against the tree. Prince Blaine tells her not to worry, that he won't tell anyone, not even Margrave. He tells her that she's good at arguing, someone who likes to hide in her room like a baby. He asks why Isha Khan likes her, asking if he wanted her to sleep with him. She replies that nothing happened between them, that he was just curious because she is Margrave's fiancé. Blaine tells her not to move, not to go out alone like that. Princess is in her room with her maid. Her maid asks her what happened earlier between her and the king of the Korkans. She replies that the king was just curious because she's Margrave's fiancé. The maid is glad to hear that. She tells her that she was worried because she left just like that, saying that he is a cruel and ruthless person and his eyes are just... The princess cuts her short, telling her to cancel all her appointment left, that she just want to stay in her room and read the documents. She tells the maid that she's fine, that maybe is because she didn't eat at the banquet, that she's a bit tired. He tells her not to let anyone in until the next day. The maid excuses herself, wishing the princess a peaceful night. Princess wonders if Blaine will tell Saradina about today. Saradina won't let her get away with it. Her stomach grumbles, she is still not eating, it seems like her headache is getting worse. She sits close to the furnace, looking at the fire. She wants to die after this state event ends. Korkan will return. If she gets there, everything will end. Then in the end, A sound distracts her thought. She wonders what it could be. She walks to the balcony. Then she sees Isha Khan, who looks like he's coming from the sky. He greets her and tells her that her pajamas is too cute, asking if she sleeps with it. She asks him why he's doing that. He walks to her and carry her in his arms. He tells her that he have a question. He asks why she didn't ask for his help earlier. She wonders if anything will change even if she asked for help. She even thought about giving up and dying, wondering what he can do for her, wondering if he can end her horrible life. She asks if he can guess the reason. He tells her that he doesn't know. He goes ahead to say that the Korkins are simple. If they don't like something, they'll say no, and if they like it, they'll just say so. She begs him to leave and he carries her and she screams at him to let her go, that he should leave her there. He replies that he doesn't want to. He goes ahead to jump down from the building. They go down to the floor. She thought he was capturing her, however, she feels happy about it. He tells her that since her silver hair indicated that she's from royal family, he gives her a hoodie to cover her hair so that other people won't start following them. This doesn't seem like what she expected. He tells her that if rumors about them start to go around Estia, it could cause a lot of problems. He says he wants to go sightseeing around the empire, but a countryside tribesman like him doesn't know much about the empire. That's why he decided to bring her with him. She tells him that she can't believe he snuck into the castle just for this, saying that he have guts. He replies her that he does, that he's used to sucking into enemies' camp base. She tells him that it takes a lot of courage for one to do that things would have gone bad for him. He replies that he has done that before, so it isn't a big deal. He tells her that there'll be a banquet in her honor the next morning, so he'll bring her back before sunrise. Until then, she's going to have some fun with him. He takes her by the hand and they move into the street. She looks in awe. It's the first time she's seeing this type of place. She wonders if people like this come here every day. He buys her a steak of meat and gives it to her, urging her to eat it. She collects it and he says that he thought she wouldn't want to eat anything else he gave her. She looks at the meat and thinks, tomorrow she'll have to wear the dress that Sardina prepared for her. She shouldn't eat anything after enduring this much for it. She feels she's going to gain weight if she eats it. She looks at it again. It's tempting, just one bite. It's delicious, it's savory and sweet at the same time. He asks her if the Estia family doesn't have any money. He says that just by selling one painting in the mansion will be enough to buy her food. She eats it at last. She ate the whole thing without realizing. He looks at her concerned and she tells him not to look at her that way, that she has a dress to wear the following day. He touches her lips and tells her not to worry, that she'll fit in just fine, saying that she only ate one meat sewer, that it won't make any difference, it's going to be fine. She looks at him. She wonders why he keeps trying to break her guards down. She wonders why he keeps trying to see through her. She never knows how to react when she does things like that, but it seems so natural for him. She asks him if he's truly being nice to her or her just needs a companion for the night. He smiles and asks what she meant by that, if that's what she was expecting, saying that he guessed he was being too naive about this. She calls him and he cuts her short, coming close to her. He asks her if she wants to do it. Still holding her, he tells her that if she really wants to, doing it outside isn't a problem. She couldn't believe what he said, being intimate outside by the street. She tells him to wait. She turns around and sees people. She tells him that he can't do it here. He brings his lips closer to her, telling her that he had told her earlier that when it's just the two of them, she wouldn't have to be the princess. His lips is almost colliding with hers. She has lived like that all her life. She wonders if it's okay for her to do that. She tells him that she's crazy. He replies that well-bred women are different. Usually in a situation like this, she would call him a crazy person. She looks around. She wonders what she's doing. The most dangerous opponent is near her. She wonders what she was actually thinking when she accepted to come here. Peace? War? Or maybe… He cuts her short as he looks around. He notices that there's some Tamari there. The princess have never heard that name before. He tells her that in Estia they call them gypsies, but the Korkins call them Tamari. He doesn't like it. Gypsies also avoid Korkins. Gypsies can live freely anywhere, doing anything to earn a living, singing, dancing, astrology, crafts, and more. They make money by putting on lots of shows, including stealing and prostitution. Places where the gypsies gather were in trouble for a while, and the reason why gypsies can't be eradicated is because they are people who support them. The gypsies know how to use magic. Rich merchants and nobles bought cheap love potions made by gypsies. In return, they keep the gypsies safe. People say something bad will happen if you mess with a gypsy. Isha Khan turns back to the princess and says they should continue where they stopped. He tries to kiss her, but she screams as she sees a gypsy at the window above them. She looks ahead and sees Margrave, a bird with some ladies fondling him. The princess is surprised, wondering why it would be in this type of situation that she'll meet him. Isha Khan tells her that it's too late to escape as he brings the hoodie down, covering her face more as Margrave now stands in front of them. Margrave, a bird, confronts Isha Khan, questioning his identity as the barbarian king. He scrutinizes Isha Khan's appearance and confirms it's him. Accusing Isha Khan of planning an attack on the capital, Margrave expresses distrust. Isha reassures Margrave, dismissing any fears and claiming there's nothing to worry about. Margrave notices the princess standing nearby but doesn't recognize her well. He asks Isha who the girl is, commenting negatively on her appearance, suggesting he's also searching for someone who resembles his fiancée. Feeling ashamed, the princess lowers her head. Margrave insults her, implying he could find a more attractive replacement. He boasts about knowing many women who resemble princesses and offers to introduce Isha to more refined women from developed kingdoms, mocking the Korkans as uncivilized barbarians. Isha laughs off Margrave's insults and clarifies the situation. Margrave challenges him, asking why he's walking around with a girl late at night. Isha turns the accusation back on Margrave, implying he's the one behaving inappropriately, not him. Margrave asks him again what he said and he repeats it. He tells him that he must be deaf, saying that one can't hide one's age. This statement makes Margrave a bird so angry and he calls Isha an uncivilized barbarian. Isha replies that instead of getting a bride 25 years younger than him, he should take care of his own, saying that he's worried for him. He tells him to talk to his conscience while at it. From behind, the princess looks at the girls beside Margrave a bird. She wonders why they look so scared. She doesn't think it's because of the Marquis. Margrave a bird is also known as the Marquis. Margrave is so angry that he abuses Isha and tells him that he would have let him go, but he raised his anger. The Marquis soldiers draws their swords. Princess knows that Isha made Margrave angry on purpose in order to interfere with the peace agreement. Isha charges towards them, asking the Marquis if that'll be enough. Isha servant comes from behind and drags the princess, saying that he wants to escort her because Isha and the Marquis will have a long talk. The princess turns back to look. The servant tells her not to look, that it's dangerous. She defies it and looks. She sees blood. Isha is fighting fearlessly with the soldiers. Princess is surprised. She knew of Korkan's amazing physical prowess, but to see him effortlessly fight against trained soldiers, it's more like he's enjoying it. She feels they cannot stop him with Estia's soldiers. The peace agreement meeting is the last chance they have. They must not go to war, no matter what. Back in the castle, Prince Blaine is drinking at the balcony. He looks worried. His mother meets him and asks if he's done drinking. She tells him that the night is cold, suggesting that they go inside. He asks her if she's going to go forward with Princess Leah marriage ceremony after the peace treaty is singed. She smiles and tells him that once he becomes king, he can take everything as his. He doesn't believe her, saying that it won't be his but it'll be Marquis. She tells him that he doesn't need to worry about anything, that she'll take care of it all. She hugs him. Leah is having her bath in the tub. Maids are around scrubbing her. She's glad she didn't get caught last night. She must be more careful. After last night, it got more clearer. Marquis or Korkans, none of them want peace. The only one who longs for peace is Estia. The central power of the Korkans were split into two due to the fight to the throne. She's being dressed up by the maids. Isha killed the previous king and rose to the top, uniting all the smaller tribes, but she's sure it's still not completely united. In order to organize them and bring unity to the country, the easiest way is creating an enemy from the outside war. She turns to one of the maids and tells her to pass a message across to Count Valtaine that she'll love to see him briefly at the banquet. The maid comes closer to her and asks if she should tell him that it's connected to what's happening outside. Leah says yes. She must find a tantalizing bait so that the Korkans become serious at the peace treaty meeting. She looks at a document so that Korkan and their king are interested. She wonders what he's doing right now. In Isha residence, his servants are dressing him up. He asks Jenin about Haven's whereabouts, and she tells him he's checking on the banquet, trying to make up for the scene from last night in front of Leah. Isha admits it's hard to keep such things hidden forever, acknowledging that the princess isn't easily frightened, admiring her bravery. He speculates that instead of being scared, she's probably thinking about how to leverage last night's incident for the peace treaty negotiations. He reflects on her fearless nature, noting she's always been that way, even in the past. He predicts she'll be the one to challenge them the most once the negotiations begin. Jenin questions if the negotiations are just an excuse, and Isha admits they are, but lately, his priorities have been shifting little by little. He tells her that it's starting to bother him, and Gamin asks if he wants to stick to the plan of repaying the favor and then leaving. She wonders if he's interested in something more substantial. Continuing on, she suggests that he take Leah as his bride. Isha replies that it's too typical of Gamin to say that. He reminds her that Leah is from Estia, and he shouldn't apply Korkan ways of thinking to her. Gamin then suggests that they focus on the banquet instead. She picks out a piece of jewelry for him to wear. Isha Khan is still being dressed and a man walks in. They exchange pleasantries. He's no other than Count Palatine Valtane. Isha Khan tells him that there's no need to be nervous, that he won't eat him. Count Valtane walks to a sit. He sees Gamine and is surprised to know that she's a woman. He tells Isha Khan that he won't say anything that'll harm Estia. Isha Khan replies that he doesn't want that. One of Isha Khan's servant offers Count Valtane a box of jewelries. He replies that he doesn't want it. Isha Khan tells him that he only wished for them to get along in future. It's the banquet. People have started arriving. They're awed by the beauty of the banquet. They wish they'd have more of that. They acknowledge the savage because of it was because of them that the banquet was made. Someone says that the king of Korkans and Leah have been acting strange recently. Another replies that he's not sure but he has heard rumors about them being together more often. They wonder if the king of Korkans and Leah are having an affair, wondering what Margrave a bird will do about that. While they're gossiping, the Leah walks into the hall. She notices that the Korkans have not arrived yet. As she walks slowly around, someone calls her and she turns to see Count Valtane prostrating. There are only a few people that she can trust. If it weren't for them, she wouldn't have been able to escape. If she play her cards right in this situation, she wouldn't have to ask for anybody's help. She walks up to him and asks what happened. He replies that he almost got murdered, that he went out to meet the king of the Korkans and he thinks he have found something. He feels they want to take over Estia from the inside, that the way they were acting was so unusual. He tells her that the king said he wanted to be in good terms with him and he offered him a present. She asks him what the present was and he replies that it's 10 rolls of purple silk. Prince is surprised. Purple dye has been one of the most luxurious, most expensive, and the most difficult dyes to obtain since ancient times. Even the royal family has difficulties getting purple clothing. Most of the lower-class nobles could also only dream of having at least one purple piece throughout their lifetime. That color has become a symbol of power and wealth. Count tells her that the silk had the most beautiful and vibrant purple he has ever seen, but he tells her not to worry, that he didn't allow them to bribe him with that. Leah is surprised. He rejected something precious just because of her. She can't believe they bribed him with something more precious than gold or jewelry. It wasn't even necessary for them to offer 10 pieces at once. She tells him that perhaps the Korkans have some kind of technique to produce purple silk easier. She tells him that it doesn't seem like they've reached out with a similar offer to other nobles, but they should be careful. She turns and sees the Korkans. They just arrived. Isha Khan is dressed richly with purple silk. She looks at him. It must be that silk. She didn't notice that silk last time because of how surprised she was at that moment, but it's very beautiful. It's obvious that their dye technology is more advanced than Estia's. She looks away from him as he comes closer. He asks her why she's acting as if she doesn't know him, saying that he saw her looking at him. She tells him that it's not like that. He lifts her hand and kisses it. He tells her that what she did makes him upset, that he was expecting a warm welcome from her here. She withdraws her hand from his, telling him that there are too many people watching them. He asks if she's angry. She didn't reply. Everyone is looking at them. She have to get herself together right now. She tells him that they've already greeted each other, saying that she'll take her leave now. She walks away. The king walks in and is greeted by the people. The king greets them back, saying that he's happy to have them and he cheers to the prosperity and growth of Estia. Meanwhile, Leah is outside with the crown prince Blaine. The prince tells her that he had warned her about getting close to the savages. Wondering how someone as smart as her is finding it hard to understand, he asks if she wants to fall in love with one of them and sell off their kingdom. She replies that she didn't want to interact with them, but the king approached her and there was nothing she could do. She tells him that she didn't have any choice than to respond. They hear the voice of their father, urging the people inside to celebrate the welcoming party. Korkans have been infiltrating Estia for some time now. If Estia wasn't able to keep peace with them and receive support from the Margrave, they wouldn't have stood a chance against an attack. Blaine should know about the pact with the Korkans too, but he chooses to act as if he didn't. Well, it seems like she's the only one in this family that is worried about this. He begs her to let her allow her first dance of the night to be with him. She tells him that she wants to dance with her fiancé. He tells her not to be foolish, that she haven't looked at the Margrave once this whole time, that her only objective is to make him agree with the pact, that every other thing is useless. She begins to walk away from him and tells him that if he really wants the pact to go well then he should stop calling them savages first, saying that she doesn't know what would happen in the future but she wants to be honest with her feelings and the Margrave. She walks back to the hall. Everyone seems to be having fun. She wonders why she feels out of place. While walking around, someone calls her. It's Margrave a bird. He asks her to dance with him. He tells her that her party dress looks good on her. It's because the dress is made of super expensive silk, but he sure is good with his words. He tells her that he was very nervous to meet with her, but she looks so beautiful. He tells her that he'll make sure to gift her a new dress with that same silk. The Margrave doesn't seem to be in the best condition today. She wonders if it's because of what happened with Isha-Khan last night. She recalls the words he said the previous night. She feels it's so horrible, wondering how often he does dirty things with women like that. He tells her to allow him the honor of holding her hands. She looks at his outstretched hands. She hesitantly places hers on top. Holding hands with him feels so disgusting to her. She can't believe she'll probably have to do it all night. She hates it. He holds her and hand leads her to the dancing floor. She sees the king of the Korkans up ahead. He stops and tells her to allow him dance one song with her. Leah stands speechless, wondering if he didn't see her walking to the dancing floor with the Margrave. She doesn't think she can switch right now. The Margrave greets him, saying that he remembers him. He tells Isha-Khan that he's Leah's fiancé, and that he might not know since he's from a desert afar, but here in Estia it is custom to have the first dance with one's partner, saying that he's sure a king like him will respect an old tradition, saying that after all, he's in Estia right now. Isha-Khan says that he thought it was a welcoming party for the Korkans, that he's the king of the Korkans, and if he can't dance with whomever he wants at a welcoming banquet for his people, isn't it a bad indicator of how Estia treats their allies? The Margrave replies that it's not like that. He asks Leah what she thinks. She stands speechless. The Margrave releases Leah's hand, leaving her for Isha-Khan, and they start dancing. Leah tells Isha-Khan that he has a talent for getting people into trouble. He asks her if she doesn't think that it's the duty of Leah. She asks why he keeps messing with her. He replies that he doesn't like to do that either. She replies that he says he doesn't like it, but he keeps doing it. He tells her that he was just being nice. They continue dancing and she notices he dances well. She asks him where he learned how to dance like the people from Estia. He tells her that he learned it long ago from someone. He asks if she's curious. She wonders how a man from a tribe like that learned to dance a long time ago. She replies that she's not curious. He tells her that he thinks she's lying. He carries her up. She begs him to leave her alone. He asks her if she still wants to die. She replies that she do. They stop dancing and she tells him that it's an honor to dance with him and that she should go back to her fiancé. She wishes that he can relax and enjoy the rest of the banquet. Isha-Khan looks at her as she walks away. If only she'd ask for help just one time. He wonders if he should help anyway. Leah walks outside, wondering what's wrong with her. She sees Margrave a bird sitting alone in the dark, drinking. She walks up to him and he tells her that she seemed to be enjoying her dance a lot, that she didn't even notice. She tries to explain, but he tells her to forget it, offering that they drink together. She doesn't want to drink, but if it's only one cup, she takes it to her mouth. She wonders what the taste is like. It's strange and she doesn't like the flavor. She tells him that they should go back inside. He says no, that they're staying right there, at least till her body gets weak. It's strange, she has a bad feeling. She tells him that she has to go now, that there's something urgent. He cuts her short, telling her to stay there, that she'll need to stay with him until the drugs take effect. She asks what he means and he says that she's pretending to be innocent, that he treated her well because she's a princess, but she behaved like trash, that she fell for that barbarian. He asks her if she still has her chastity that she vowed to keep until her first night. He tells her that he'll have to check it himself, that she'll like it soon. She needs to push him away, but her body won't move. She begs him, but he won't budge as he keeps holding onto her. She struggles to free herself and she kicks him. He frees her for a bit and she runs away. The Margrave guards runs around looking for her. She hides behind a flower. She doesn't want to be caught. Someone holds her from behind and embraces her. It's Isha-Khan. She begins to cry silently in his arms. He takes her to a quiet place and asks her if he should kill the Margrave. She didn't reply. He tells her to wait for him as he is about to go. She tells him not to kill him. He tells her that even in this her situation, she's worried about her family. He tells her to be moderately selfish sometimes. She tells him that she's not worried about the royal family but for Estia, that she just wished that the innocent people of the kingdom doesn't get sacrificed in vain, that no one is sacrificed needlessly. She tells him that she just want to run away from there. She begs him continuously. He turns and faces her. He touches her face and tells her that she seems to want to taste the limits of his patience. He sees her vibrating. He asks her what she ate and she tells him that it's the wine. Her body feels strange, it's been hot and itchy right from a while ago. He brings her closer to him and inserts his tongue into her mouth. He tells her that it seems the Margrave bought a love potion. It's just called a love potion, but it's cheap aphrodisiac. Actual sorcerers are very few, but... He tells her that they'll need an antidote. He asks her to make a choice, asking her what she'll do. She can't reply well. She begs him to do something. He takes her outside in his arms. Margrave guards are still looking for her. He walks quietly in the dark, she begins to shake. Her bottom is tingling too much. Isha Khan asks her if she wants to do it in front of the Margrave, that he doesn't mind, her body has no strength. They go outside to the garden, he tells her that it's a good place to smoke, that the flowers are pretty too. He lays her down gently, she looks around, it's beautiful, he makes her to lie down, telling her that they have things to do. He tells her they have to start their treatment. He lifts up her leg and sees some bruises, asking if she's okay. He tells her that if she had told him about it earlier he would have cut the Margrave's leg. He tells her that he's on the road to become one of the most patient Korkan in the history of the tribe, all because of her. She looks at him as he starts removing her pajamas, she wonders if they are really going to that here, wonder what they're going to do if someone comes. As if reading her thoughts, he tells her that he's sure there are a ton of people doing similar things around there, so she shouldn't be worried as no one would be able to identify them. He notices her tension. He touches her face asking her what the matter is. He tells her that even wild beasts do it out in the open all the time. He asks if it's because of her pride as a member of the royal Estia family. He tells her to remember that she's doing it with a beast and he doesn't care about such things. She asks if he's reading her mind. He says he's just acting according to what she have said before, the drug seems to be quite strong. He begins to undress her, she feels she wants to do it, just like the last time, and they get intimate. She wakes up a few hours later, she's on the bed, she feels she must have passed out, she looks around, he brought her back. He's sitting beside her smoking, she asks for water, he sits her down and gives her some. She tells him that she feels dizzy, he offers her the tobacco, that she just hold it in her mouth for a while and let it go. He tells her one slip. So refreshing, she likes it, he tells her to stop, that having too much of it would be poisonous. He keeps her gently on the bed, saying that she feels better now, telling her to have a good night rest. All tragedies begin with passionate feeling. King fell in love with a country girl at first sight at a banquet. Her honest speech and cheerful laughter were something he had never seen in the nobles of the capital. Thus, a young lady of a small local noble family became the queen of Estia. But without nobody supporting her, she withered away day by day, clinging only to the king's love. Culmination of her misfortune was the moment she gave birth to Leah. She finally gave birth to Leah after a difficult labor, but she was unable to have a son and became infertile. The king's love have also long cooled, and so she was driven out of the palace in a miserable state. This happened when Leah was only 3 years old. Small Leah runs to her mum crying. Her mum tells her to make sure to survive, never to go against Sardina, and she must also obey commands. No sooner had she said those words than she was found dead, her body cold and lifeless. The royal family announced that she had taken her own life, but no one believed it was suicide, except for one person. Sardina's entry into the royal palace was a riot, because she entered the palace with a young boy. She had been involved with the king since before the deposed queen. Leah's real mother was expelled. However, the voices criticizing her soon disappeared. This is because Sardina was backed a powerful family, and in the future by the king's favor and Blaine, who had been crowned crown prince. Even the ignorant praised Sardina as kind and virtuous, saying that to raise a princess who is not even her child with such sincerity. They didn't even know that she was abusing Leah with her cunning intentions hidden. Education, work, and appearance, she was perfect in every way, she was like one of the many works of art in Estia. Sardina looks at Leah and tells her that she's the flower of Estia. Leah wakes up on the bed and looks around the room. Her head hurts, her legs are bandaged, and she tries to sit. Yesterday she drank a lot of alcohol and her body started to get hot. It would have been better if she didn't remember, but every detail feels so vivid, so vulgar and promiscuous. She looks outside, they must have been an uproar in the palace. How's she supposed to handle it? She feels she has to go back. She tries to get down from the bed, someone enters the room with food and greets her. She introduces herself as Jenin, a royal escort of Lord Isha Khan. Leah remembers her, she saw her briefly at the banquet. Jenin looks at Leah intently as she removes the bed covers from her body. Leah feels uncomfortable. Jenin apologizes, saying that she was surprised that Leah looks so thin and small. She begs Leah to forgive her rudeness, but Leah tells her not to worry about it. She notices that Jenin's attitude is soft, contrary to her appearance. Jenin places before her some food, telling her that she brought her something simple to eat. Leah looks at the food, she's surprised that Jenin considered them as simple. Jenin placed several beverages before her, saying that she didn't know which one Leah would like. She also offered some dessert for her. Leah picks a piece in water and tells Jenin that she's fine after eating that. Jenin is surprised, asking if she doesn't like the food, saying that it was specially prepared for the Princess of Estia. Leah replies that she doesn't eat a lot. Jenin still asks her if she's sure she doesn't want more, and Leah says she's okay. Leah notices that Jenin has a tattoo. She asks her, and Jenin tells her that she has only one. She tells Jenin that she thinks all Korkins have tattoos but the king doesn't have one. Jenin tells her that it's proof that not a single fight was lost. Leah tells her to extend her gratitude to King because he helped her yesterday. Jenin agrees to do that. Leah also tells Jenin to get her some clothes that she'll love go to the palace. Jenin tells her that Lord Isha Khan will be away for a while so she'll escort her to the palace. Princess Leah goes to the palace, walking in the hallway with Jenin. She notices something is strange. She wonders why the palace is so quiet that there's no one to greet them. She wonders if someone got there first. As they walk on, Jenin hears footsteps from the hall. They move ahead and see some maids prostrating. She sees her brother Blaine sitting. He tells her that she's back early, that he has been waiting for her. Enjoying this recap so far? Comment Leah below. Also, please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, ciao.